You ever have one of those evenings where you're just off? Nothing specific is wrong. You're not upset about anything in particular, but the apartment feels too quiet. The evening feels too long. And at some point, you pick up your phone and start scrolling. And then, you buy something. Maybe it's something small. Maybe it's three things. And the next morning, you look at the order confirmation and think, why did I do that? Here's what's actually happening. When you feel disconnected from people, your brain treats it like a threat. Not metaphorically, literally. Social isolation activates the same alarm system in your nervous system as physical danger, and an alarmed brain immediately starts looking for relief. The problem is that your brain doesn't care whether that relief is real or synthetic. It just wants the signal to stop. And buying things, the personalized recommendation, the satisfying unboxing, the brand that speaks directly to you, is very good at producing a temporary version of that signal. Not real connection, a convincing imitation of it. That's the core of what's happening. Loneliness makes you spend, not because you're weak or undisciplined, because your nervous system is doing exactly what it was built to do, looking for connection. And the consumer economy has spent billions of dollars learning how to look like the answer. Now, why does this happen in the first place? Because loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a survival signal. For most of human history, being cut off from your social group was genuinely dangerous. Isolated humans didn't survive as well as connected ones. So your brain evolved to treat loneliness as urgent, something requiring immediate resolution. That urgency is still running today, in your body, even though the environment has completely changed. You're not in physical danger, but your nervous system doesn't fully know that. It's still scanning for relief the same way it always has. And the closest thing it can find at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night is whatever is 2 clicks away on your phone. Researchers call what follows compensatory consumption. The idea is simple. When a real need isn't being met, people unconsciously reach for substitutes. You don't feel lonely and then consciously decide to buy something to feel better. It happens below the surface. Your nervous system scans for anything that produces the felt sense of being cared for, noticed, or like you belong somewhere. And purchases are surprisingly good at mimicking that. The warm email that remembers your name. The product that seems made exactly for someone like you. The experience of spending money on yourself when the day has been hard. Each of these produces a brief, convincing version of the feeling your brain is actually looking for. This is backed up by real research. Studies have found that lonely people are significantly more likely to anthropomorphize products. They attach human qualities to brands and objects, form emotional relationships with them, and spend money to maintain those relationships. There's a reason your streaming service feels like a friend. It's designed to. And when you're lonely, the design works better than it otherwise would. You're also more likely to develop parasocial spending patterns. The podcast host who feels like they know you. The creator whose content makes you feel like you're hanging out with someone. Because those experiences genuinely reduce the loneliness signal, at least temporarily. The spending that follows them makes complete sense once you understand what it's actually trying to do. The consumer economy didn't accidentally get good at this. It got deliberately good at it. Every major brand has spent enormous resources studying the emotional needs that drive purchasing and engineering the buying experience to meet them. The unboxing ritual is designed to feel like receiving a gift. The loyalty program is designed to feel like belonging to something. The subscription that arrives every month is designed to feel like someone thinking of you. The personalized email is designed to feel like being known. None of this is incidental. It's the direct result of an industry that figured out decades ago that connection is the deepest need they could intercept and built entire product experiences around intercepting it. So you're not just fighting an impulse when you spend while lonely. You're fighting an impulse that's been carefully engineered to feel like a solution to a real problem. Now here's the part that most conversations about this completely miss. Loneliness doesn't just make you want to spend, it also makes you worse at not spending. Research has found that loneliness impairs future-oriented thinking, your brain's ability to weigh long-term consequences against short-term relief. The already difficult work of choosing savings over spending gets measurably harder when you're isolated. You're not just feeling the pull toward a purchase more strongly, you're simultaneously less equipped to resist it. Both things are happening at the same time. That's a tough combination, and it means the problem compounds. Loneliness degrades the very resources you'd normally use to catch yourself before the purchase lands. And here's why conventional financial advice completely fails here. The standard toolkit, track your spending, create friction, wait 30 days, is aimed at the spending. But if the spending is compensatory, if it's your nervous system trying to address a genuine unmet need, then adding friction just redirects the need. You skip one purchase and make a different one. You close one tab and open another. The pattern continues because you're treating the symptom while the cause is sitting right there, unaddressed. No budget app in the world fixes loneliness. The question that actually helps isn't, how do I stop spending? It's, what is this spending trying to do? Because the answer changes everything about where you look for the solution. If your spending is trying to manufacture connection, the fix is a social one, not a financial one. And once you see that clearly, the spending pattern stops feeling like a discipline failure and starts feeling like information. Your nervous system telling you something real about what it needs. That shift, from guilt to curiosity, is the most important thing in this entire video. Because guilt keeps you focused on the symptom. Curiosity points you toward the cause. So what do you actually do with this? The first thing is to start tracking the emotional context of your spending, not just the spending itself. Not just what you bought, but when and what was going on. A simple note, bought 3 things on a Wednesday night, had a quiet day, felt off, is more useful than a detailed budget spreadsheet that records the transaction without the emotional context behind it. You're not weak. You're responding to something real. And now you can actually see it. The second is to stop treating the urge to spend when you're lonely as a character flaw. Your nervous system is not broken. It's doing exactly what nervous systems do, trying to get a need met. Piling guilt on top of loneliness doesn't address either one. It just makes both feel worse. The more useful move is to get curious rather than critical. What connection need is actually present right now? Is there a more direct way to meet it? Sometimes there is. A text to someone you haven't talked to in a while. A walk somewhere with other people around. Anything that puts actual human presence near the need instead of a purchase. The third is investing in what researchers consistently find actually works. The frequency of real social contact. Not grand gestures, not major life changes. Small, regular, reliable touchpoints that lower the baseline loneliness that makes the spending trigger so easy to pull. A standing weekly call. A recurring plan with someone. A routine that puts you in proximity to other people on a predictable schedule. The research is consistent that it's the regularity that matters more than the intensity. You don't need a packed social calendar. You need enough consistent connection that your nervous system stops running the alarm. These things accumulate quietly in the background, and they do something the spending never does. They address the actual need rather than substituting for it. One more thing worth naming before we close. The spending that compensates for loneliness often looks completely reasonable from the outside. It doesn't look like a crisis. It looks like someone buying things, normal things, things they kind of wanted anyway. The problem isn't any individual purchase. It's the pattern underneath. The steady, quiet accumulation of things bought to address a need that things were never going to address. That's what makes it so hard to catch. There's no single dramatic moment. There's just a slowly growing category of spending that doesn't map to anything specific on a budget sheet, but shows up reliably when you're going through a disconnected stretch. And that's exactly why tracking the emotional context matters more than tracking the dollar amount. The dollar amount tells you what happened. The emotional context tells you why. And knowing why is the only thing that actually changes the pattern. Here's the line I want you to take away from this. The substitutes are expensive, and they don't work. The real thing is usually free, and it does. That's not a motivational slogan. That's just the math of what compensatory spending actually costs versus what it actually delivers. Over a year, the gap between those two things is real, and it compounds in both directions. Money spent on things that didn't address the need, and connection that was never built because the substitute kept standing in for it. You're not overspending because you lack discipline. You might be overspending because connection has been harder to find than your nervous system was built to tolerate quietly. If this named something you felt but couldn't quite explain, subscribe. Every week we dig into the psychology behind financial behavior and why the real answers are rarely where the advice industry is pointing. And drop a comment. Do you notice your spending going up when you're going through a more isolated stretch? I'd genuinely like to know.